The massive space station hung in the darkness like a glowing city. Galactic Council Station Omega-7 was the size of a small moon, built by dozens of alien races working together. Ships from across the galaxy docked at its ports every day. Today was special. Today, the humans were coming. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho looked out the window of his small transport ship. He was a quiet man in his 50s with gray hair and kind eyes. He wore a simple dark suit and carried an old briefcase. Nothing about him looked dangerous or important. He looked like any office worker from Earth. First time seeing the station, "Ambassador?" asked his assistant. Park Ji-woo was a young woman who seemed very shy. She kept her head down and spoke softly. She carried data pads and files everywhere. Her job was to help Tae-ho with paperwork and meetings. "Yes," Tae-ho said. "It's bigger than I expected." Ji-woo nodded and went back to reading her files. She looked nervous, like she was worried about making mistakes. Her hands shook a little as she turned pages. Other passengers on the ship barely noticed her. The ship docked with a soft thud. Tae-ho and Ji-woo gathered their things and walked down the ramp. The station was full of aliens. Some were tall and green with 4 arms. Others looked like giant insects with shiny shells. A few floated in the air using some kind of technology. Many of the aliens stared at the humans. Some pointed and whispered. Others laughed. Tae-ho smiled politely at everyone. Ji-woo stayed close behind him, looking at the floor. "Those are the humans," said a voice nearby. "They look so weak." "I heard they still use metal weapons," said another voice. "How primitive." Tae-ho heard the comments but kept walking. His face stayed calm and friendly. Ji-woo said nothing. She just followed him through the crowded hallways. They reached the main council chamber. It was huge, with seats for hundreds of delegates. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness. Holographic displays showed information in dozens of alien languages. A tall, red-skinned alien wearing fancy robes approached them. This was Chancellor Gorvex of the Vorthak Empire. His people were known as the strongest warriors in the galaxy. He had 4 arms, and each one was bigger than Tae-ho's entire body. "So you are the human ambassador," Gorvex said. His voice was deep and loud. "You look even smaller than I thought." "It's an honor to meet you, Chancellor," Tae-ho said. He bowed politely. "I'm Kim Tae-ho. This is my assistant, Park Ji-woo." Ji-woo bowed very low. She looked scared of the big alien. Gorvex laughed. "Your assistant looks like she might cry. Are all humans so weak?" Other aliens nearby started laughing too. Someone made a joke about humans being barely evolved monkeys. Another said they should be in a zoo, not a council chamber. Tae-ho's smile never changed. "We're here to discuss Earth's membership in the Galactic Council. I hope we can have a good conversation." "Conversation," said a new voice. This came from Counselor Zephyra of the Ethereal Collective. She looked like a tall, pale human, but with silver eyes that glowed. Her people could read minds and control thoughts. "We will see what your primitive mind really thinks." Ji-woo looked up for just a moment. Her eyes met Zephyra's briefly before she looked down again. Something passed between them, but it happened so fast no one else noticed. The council session began. Hundreds of aliens took their seats. Tae-ho and Ji-woo sat at a small table in the center. They looked very alone, surrounded by so many large, powerful beings. The council leader, an ancient alien that looked like a floating jellyfish, spoke first. "We are here to consider Earth's request for membership. Ambassador Tae-ho, you may present." Your case. Taeho stood up. He looked calm despite being the smallest person in the room. Thank you. Earth seeks membership because we believe in peace and cooperation. We want to learn from other species and share what we know. Many aliens made rude noises. Someone shouted, "What could primitives teach us?" Taeho continued, as if nothing happened. We know we're new to space travel. We know we have much to learn. But we also believe every species has value. Every voice should be heard. Pretty words, Gorvex said, but words are cheap. What can your species actually do? What makes you think you deserve to sit with your betters? We're good at solving problems, Taeho said. We're good at adapting to new situations. And we never give up. More laughter filled the chamber. An alien that looked like a giant spider clicked its legs together. Humans are famous for fighting each other. You can't even have peace on your own world. That's true, Taeho admitted. We do fight sometimes, but we also learn from our mistakes. We try to do better. Ji-Woo was taking notes the whole time. She wrote down everything that was said. Sometimes she would hand Taeho a piece of paper with information on it. She looked like any busy assistant trying to help her boss. A delegate from the Nexus Federation stood up. These aliens looked like metal robots, but were actually living beings. Our scans show human technology is centuries behind ours. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are slow. Your computers are simple. Why should advanced civilizations waste time with primitives? Because everyone starts somewhere, Taeho said. Your species was primitive once too. This made many aliens angry. They started shouting and pointing at Taeho. The noise in the chamber grew louder and louder. "How dare you compare us to yourselves?" yelled one alien. "Humans are insects," shouted another. "You should be slaves, not equals." Through all the noise and anger, Taeho stayed calm. He sipped water from a small cup and waited for the shouting to stop. Ji-Woo continued writing notes. Neither human looked worried or scared. Chancellor Gorvex slammed one of his massive fists on his desk. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. "Enough! The human thinks he can insult us with his pretty speeches. Let me show you what real power looks like." Gorvex stood up to his full height. He was 3 times taller than Taeho. His 4 arms flexed, showing muscles that could crush steel. "Perhaps you need a lesson in respect, little human." Taeho set down his water cup carefully. He looked up at the giant alien without fear. "I'm sorry if I said something to offend you, Chancellor. That wasn't my intention." "Your intention doesn't matter," Gorvex growled. "What matters is that you learn your place." Ji-Woo looked up from her notes for the second time. This time, several aliens noticed. There was something different in her eyes now, something that made a few of the smarter delegates feel uncomfortable. But most of the council was too busy enjoying the show. They wanted to see the human ambassador humiliated. They wanted to show these primitives that the galaxy belonged to the strong. Taeho folded his hands on the table. "What did you have in mind, Chancellor?" The question was asked so politely, so innocently, that it took a moment for its meaning to sink in. Taeho wasn't backing down. He wasn't begging for mercy. He was asking what kind of challenge Gorvex wanted to make. The chamber fell quiet. This was not how primitives were supposed to act. They were supposed to be afraid. They were supposed to apologize and beg for forgiveness. Instead, the human ambassador sat calmly waiting for an answer. His assistant went back to writing notes, as if nothing important was happening. Something was wrong with this picture. But most of the aliens were too proud and angry to figure out what it was. Chancellor Gorvex smiled, showing teeth like broken glass. Since you ask so nicely, little human, I think a demonstration is needed. You came here speaking of peace and cooperation, but the galaxy belongs to the strong. Tae-ho nodded as if this made perfect sense. I see. And you want to show us how strong you are? Not me, Gorvex said. He gestured to one of his delegates. Counselor Zephyra, would you do the honors? Zephyra stood up gracefully. Her silver eyes began to glow brighter. It would be my pleasure, Chancellor. The Ethereal Collective was known across the galaxy for their mental powers. They could read thoughts, control minds, and crush spirits with just a look. Zephyra was one of their strongest telepaths. Don't worry, human, Zephyra said sweetly. This won't hurt much. I'll just look inside your mind and show everyone what you really think of us. Many aliens leaned forward in their seats. This would be fun to watch. They expected to see the human ambassador break down and cry. Maybe they would see him beg for mercy. Tae-ho sat perfectly still. If that's what you want to do. Zephyra's eyes flashed. Invisible mental energy reached out toward Tae-ho's mind. She expected to slip inside his thoughts like walking through an open door. Instead, she hit something like a steel wall. She tried again, pushing harder. Nothing. It was like trying to read the thoughts of a rock. Her confident smile started to fade. Interesting. You have some natural mental resistance, but everyone breaks eventually. Zephyra put both hands to her temples. Her eyes blazed like stars. The air around her shimmered with psychic energy. Other telepaths in the chamber felt the power she was using. It was enough to shatter most minds. Tae-ho just sat there drinking his water. Sweat appeared on Zephyra's forehead. She was using more power than she had ever used before. The mental attack should have turned Tae-ho's brain into soup. Instead, he seemed completely unaffected. Having trouble? Tae-ho asked politely. This made Zephyra angry. She screamed and released all her power at once. The psychic blast was so strong that several weak-minded aliens in the chamber passed out. Others cried out in pain. Tae-ho finished his water and set the cup down gently. Are you done? Zephyra staggered backward. Her nose was bleeding. She had used so much power that she had hurt herself, but the human's mind remained completely closed to her. Impossible, she whispered. No primitive mind could resist me. Perhaps, Tae-ho said, you shouldn't assume what you don't understand. The chamber erupted in angry voices. How had a primitive human resisted their most powerful telepath? What was wrong with this picture? He's using some kind of technology, shouted one alien. Mental shielding devices, yelled another. The human is cheating. Chancellor Gorvex's 4 fists slammed down on his desk again. Silence! The human came here under false pretenses. He's not a simple diplomat. He's some kind of spy or agent. Tae-ho looked surprised. I'm sorry you feel that way, Chancellor. I'm exactly what I appear to be. Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. Lies, Gorvex roared. No primitive could resist Zephyra's power. Without advanced technology, you came here to deceive us. Other aliens started shouting agreements. The chamber filled with angry voices calling for the humans to be arrested or thrown out. Through all the noise, Ji-woo kept writing notes. She seemed completely focused on her paperwork. But a few sharp-eyed observers noticed something odd. Her hand never stopped moving, but she wasn't looking at the paper. She was watching everything that happened in the chamber. A delegate from the Corvan Trade Union stood up. If the humans are using hidden technology, we demand to know what it is. This breaks all protocols for diplomatic meetings. I understand your concern, Tejo said, but I can assure you that I'm not hiding anything dangerous. I'm here to talk, not to fight. Then submit to a full technology scan, demanded another alien. Prove you have nothing to hide. Tejo looked thoughtful. I suppose that would be fair. But I should warn you that such a scan might reveal things you're not prepared to see. The aliens laughed at this. What could a primitive human possibly have that would surprise them? Scan away, Gorvex said. Let's see what tricks you primitives are hiding. A team of Nexus Federation technicians approached with their scanning equipment. These machines could detect any technology down to the molecular level. Nothing could hide from them. They pointed their scanners at Tejo and began their work. Almost immediately, their machines started making strange noises. The technicians looked confused. Sir, one of them called to his supervisor. These readings don't make sense. What do you mean? The supervisor asked. The human appears to have extensive cybernetic implants, neural processors, enhanced reflexes, reinforced skeleton, improved organs. But the technology is... We've never seen anything like it. The chamber fell quiet. This was impossible. Humans were supposed to be primitives. Their technology was supposed to be centuries behind everyone else's. How advanced? Gorvex asked, slowly. The technician checked his readings 3 times before answering. Sir, based on these scans, this human is more heavily modified than our best Special Forces soldiers, and the technology appears to be more advanced than anything in our databases. All eyes turned to Tejo. He still looked like a mild-mannered diplomat in a simple suit, but now everyone knew there was much more to him than met the eye. I tried to warn you, Tejo said gently. I told you that scanning me might reveal things you weren't prepared to see. What are you? Zephyra whispered. She was still bleeding from her failed mental attack. I'm exactly what I said I am, Tejo replied. I'm Earth's ambassador. I'm here to discuss membership in the Galactic Council. But those implants, said the Nexus delegate. That level of technology, how is this possible? Tejo smiled sadly. You keep calling us primitives. You assume that because we're new, to space travel we must be simple and weak. But you never asked what we're good at. He stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. Every alien eye followed him. Earth has been at war with itself for thousands of years. We've learned to fight and survive in ways you can't imagine. We've learned to adapt, to overcome, to keep going when everything looks hopeless. Chancellor Gorvex was no longer smiling. Are you threatening us, human? Not at all, Tejo said. I'm trying to explain something important. You see us as primitives because our ships are slower and our weapons are simpler. But you never considered what else we might be good at. He gestured to Jiwoo, who was still writing notes. You've been laughing at my assistant all day. You think she's just a nervous young woman who's afraid of making mistakes. But you never really looked at her. Several aliens turned to stare at Jiwoo. She was still focused on her paperwork, but something was different now. The way she sat, the way she held her pen, the way her eyes moved, it all seemed more purposeful. Somehow. What are you saying? Demanded Gorvex. Tejo walked back to his seat. I'm saying that Earth didn't send a simple diplomat to this meeting. We sent someone who could handle whatever situation arose. Someone who could adapt to any threat. Someone who could protect Earth's interests no matter what happened. He sat down and picked up his water cup again. And I'm saying that you've been making assumptions about humans based on incomplete information. That's a dangerous thing to do when dealing with a species that survive by being unpredictable. The chamber was completely silent now. Every alien was thinking the same thing. If the ambassador was this heavily modified, what about his assistant? What about the other humans on the station? For the first time since the meeting began, some of the smarter aliens started to feel nervous. They had been so busy laughing at the primitives that they never stopped to think about what those primitives might be capable of. Ji-Woo looked up from her notes and made eye contact with several delegates around the chamber. Her gaze was calm and steady. There was no fear in her eyes anymore. There was something else instead. Something that made even the bravest warriors in the chamber suddenly wish they were somewhere else. The silence in the chamber stretched on. No one seemed to know what to say. The humans had just revealed that they were far more advanced than anyone had imagined. But instead of feeling impressed, most of the aliens felt angry and betrayed. Chancellor Gorvex was the first to break the silence. His 4 hands clenched into fists. "You came here under false pretenses. You pretended to be simple diplomats when you're actually advanced warriors." "I never pretended to be anything," Taeho said calmly. "I told you exactly who I am. I'm Earth's ambassador. The fact that Earth chose to enhance me for this mission doesn't change that." "Enhancement for what purpose?" demanded Counselor Zephyra. She was still shaky from her failed mental attack. "Why would diplomats need military-grade modifications?" Taeho set down his water cup and looked around the chamber. "Perhaps because we did our research before coming here. We learned about the Galactic Council's history. We studied your records." He stood up again and walked to the central display screen. With a few touches, he brought up holographic images. They showed battles, conquered worlds, and destroyed civilizations. "In the last 100 years," Taeho said, "the Galactic Council has voted to destroy 17 different species for being too primitive or too dangerous. 3 species were enslaved. 12 worlds were stripped of all resources and left to die." The aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. These were not things they liked to discuss in public. Taeho continued. "We also learned about your standard diplomatic procedures. Species that come here unprepared tend to disappear. Their worlds get classified as uninhabited and opened for colonization." "Those species brought their fate on themselves," Gorvex growled. "They were weak. They couldn't protect what was theirs." "Exactly," Taeho said. "So we made sure we wouldn't make the same mistake. We came prepared." A new alien stood up. This was General Krex of the Zulon military caste. His people were professional soldiers who had conquered dozens of worlds. "Prepared for what? Are you planning to fight the entire Galactic Council?" Taeho smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Only if we have to, General." The chamber erupted in angry shouts again. But this time, the anger sounded different. There was fear mixed in with it. Fear that maybe these humans were more dangerous than they appeared. "This is outrageous," yelled one delegate. "You can't threaten the entire council." "I'm not threatening anyone," Taeho said. "I'm simply stating facts. Earth sent me here to negotiate membership in good faith. But we're not naive. We know what happens to unprepared species in this galaxy." Chancellor Gorvex stood up to his full height. "You think your primitive technology can stand against the combined might of the galaxy? You're even more foolish than I thought." "Maybe," Taeho agreed, "but you might be surprised by what primitive technology can accomplish in the right hands." He walked back to his seat and sat down next to Ji-Woo. She was still writing notes, but now everyone could see that she was also watching everything that happened in the chamber. Her eyes missed nothing. "Besides," Taeho added casually, Who said anything about technology? Before anyone could ask what he meant, alarms started going off throughout the station. Red warning lights flashed. Emergency announcements echoed through the halls in dozens of languages. "All security teams to the docking bay," the announcement said. "Unknown vessels approaching. All security teams to the docking bay immediately." The aliens in the chamber looked confused. The station's defenses were the best in the galaxy. Nothing could approach without being detected hours in advance. A communications officer rushed into the chamber. He whispered something to Chancellor Gorvex. The big alien's face went pale. "What is it?" demanded General Krex. Gorvex looked at the humans with new eyes. "3 ships just appeared out of nowhere near the station. They're not on any of our sensors. They just materialized." "Impossible," said the Nexus delegate. "Our sensors can detect anything within 1,000 kilometers. The communications officer spoke up nervously. "Sir, the ships are requesting permission to dock. They say they're part of the human diplomatic mission." All eyes turned to Tae-ho. He was drinking his water again, completely calm despite the chaos around him. "Oh," he said, as if he had just remembered something. "I should probably mention that we brought some additional staff. I hope that's not a problem." "Additional staff?" Gorvex's voice was barely controlled. "What kind of additional?" "Staff needs invisible ships." "The usual kind," Tae-ho said. "Security, technical support, medical team. You know how it is with diplomatic missions. Lots of paperwork. Lots of people needed to handle everything properly." Jiwoo looked up from her notes. "Ambassador, should I contact the others and let them know we're running a bit late?" "That would be helpful, thank you," Tae-ho said. Jiwoo reached into her bag and pulled out what looked like a simple communication device. But when she activated it, the display showed technology that none of the aliens recognized. "Control, this is Nest," she said quietly. "Package is secure. All birds are in formation, awaiting further instructions." A voice came back through the device, speaking in human language, but somehow everyone in the chamber could understand it. "Understood, Nest. Standing by. All teams report ready status." The chamber was dead silent now. Every alien was starting to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. These humans hadn't come here as weak primitives begging for membership. They had come as equals, ready to negotiate from a position of strength. Tae-ho finished his water and set the cup down. "Now then, where were we?" "Oh yes, we were discussing Earth's membership in the Galactic Council." "This changes everything," General Krex said. "You can't just bring a fleet to a diplomatic meeting?" "Why not?" Tae-ho asked. "Half the delegates here have ships in orbit. The Vorthak Empire brought a battle cruiser. The Nexus Federation has 2 destroyers on standby. Why shouldn't Earth bring appropriate protection?" "Because your ships are invisible," Zephyra shouted. "They could be anywhere. They could be targeting us right now." Tae-ho looked genuinely puzzled. "Why would we target you? We're here for a peaceful meeting. Unless, of course, someone were to do something that would require us to defend ourselves." The threat was delivered so politely that it took a moment to sink in. But when it did, every alien in the chamber understood the new reality. Earth hadn't come here as supplicants. They had come as equals who were fully prepared to defend themselves. Chancellor Gorvex's 4 hands were shaking with rage. "You think you can intimidate us with your tricks and threats? The Galactic Council has existed for 1,000 years. We've defeated species far more advanced than your primitives." "Have you?" Tae-ho asked. "That's interesting, because according to our research, most of the species you've defeated were actually peaceful civilizations that never saw your attacks coming. When was the last time you fought someone who was actually prepared for war?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. The truth was that the Galactic Council preferred to pick on weak targets. They hadn't faced a real fight in centuries. Gorvex realized that he was being backed into a corner. If he backed down now, he would look weak in front of the entire council. But if he continued to escalate, he might find out exactly how dangerous these humans really were. He made his choice. "Guards!" he roared. "Arrest these humans for threatening the Galactic Council!" Armed soldiers started moving toward the human delegation. They were heavily armed and well-trained. Under normal circumstances, 2 unarmed diplomats wouldn't stand a chance. But as the first guard reached for his weapon, Ji-Woo finally stopped writing notes. She looked up with eyes that were no longer nervous or shy. They were the eyes of a predator that had been pretending to be prey. "I was wondering when someone would do something stupid," she said quietly. And for the first time since arriving at the station, Ambassador Kim Tae-ho looked truly dangerous. The first guard was a Corvan warrior, standing 7 feet tall with arms like tree trunks. He had fought in dozens of battles across the galaxy. His weapon could cut through steel like paper. He was fast, strong, and experienced. He never knew what hit him. Ji-Woo moved like liquid lightning. One moment she was sitting quietly with her papers. The next moment the guard was on the floor, unconscious but breathing. His weapon was in Ji-Woo's hand. The whole thing took less than 2 seconds. The chamber fell silent. Everyone stared at the small human woman, who was now holding a military-grade plasma rifle like she had been born with it. "That was impressive," Tae-ho said calmly. "But please try not to hurt anyone seriously, Ji-Woo. We're still guests here." "Of course, Ambassador," Ji-Woo replied. She was no longer the nervous assistant she had pretended to be. Her voice was steady and professional. "Minimal force only." 6 more guards rushed toward them. Ji-Woo sighed and set down her papers carefully. She didn't want them to get damaged. What happened next was not a fight. It was a demonstration. The second guard swung a massive club at Ji-Woo's head. She ducked under it and tapped him gently on the neck with 2 fingers. He collapsed like his strings had been cut. The third guard tried to shoot her with an energy pistol. Ji-Woo threw her pen at him. The simple writing instrument hit him in exactly the right spot to temporarily paralyze his trigger finger. While he stared at his numb hand in confusion, she walked over and took his weapon away. The 4th and 5th guards attacked together. They were trained for team combat and moved in perfect coordination. Ji-Woo picked up her teacup and threw it at the ceiling. It bounced off at exactly the right angle to hit one guard in the forehead, knocking him out. She used the distraction to grab the other guard's weapon and turn it on its safety setting. One quick shot, and he was unconscious. The 6th guard was smart. He stayed back and tried to call for help on his communication device. Ji-Woo picked up her datapad and threw it like a frisbee. It hit the communicator and destroyed it, then bounced back to her hand. The 7th guard was the biggest and strongest. He roared and charged at her with both fists raised. Ji-Woo stepped aside at the last second. The guard's momentum carried him straight into the wall. He hit it so hard that the metal bent around his body. He slid to the floor unconscious. 6 guards lay on the floor around Ji-Woo. All of them were alive but completely unable to move. She hadn't used any advanced weapons or technology. Just simple physics, perfect timing, and movements too fast for the eye to follow. She walked back to her seat, picked up her pen, and continued writing notes as if nothing had happened. The entire chamber was frozen in shock. These guards were elite soldiers. They had faced armies and won. Yet a small human woman had defeated all of them using office supplies and a teacup. "Apologies for the interruption, Chancellor," Tae-ho said politely. "You were saying something about arresting us?" Chancellor Gorvex stared at the unconscious guards. His 4 mouths were hanging open. "What? What is she?" "I told you," Tejo said. "She's my assistant. Very good at her job." General Krex found his voice first. "That's impossible. No one moves that fast. No one is that precise. She took down trained soldiers like they were children." "Earth has been at war with itself for thousands of years," Tejo explained. "We've had plenty of time to learn how to fight. Jiwoo here is one of our better students." "Better students?" Zephyra whispered. "You mean there are others like her?" Jiwoo looked up from her notes. "Oh, I'm not that special. There are at least 50 people on Earth who could do what I just did. Maybe more." She said it so casually that it was even more terrifying. This wasn't their best warrior. This was just someone they sent to take notes. Alarms were still going off throughout the station. More guards were probably on their way. But no one in the chamber wanted to call for them anymore. If Jiwoo could do this to elite soldiers, what would happen to regular security guards? Tejo reached into his briefcase and pulled out another set of papers. "Now, as I was saying, Earth would like to join the Galactic Council. We believe we can contribute valuable skills and knowledge to the galactic community." "Valuable skills," Gorvex repeated slowly. "Like turning diplomats into weapons." "Like surviving," Tejo corrected. "Like adapting to any situation. Like protecting what we care about." He spread the papers out on the table. They were full of technical diagrams and star charts. "For example, we've developed some interesting advances in stealth technology. Those ships that appeared near your station. They've actually been here for 3 days. Your sensors never detected them because they didn't want to be detected." The blood drained from several alien faces. If human ships had been near the station for 3 days without being detected, they could have done anything. They could have planted bombs, hacked computers, or mapped every defense. "We've also made progress in other areas," Tejo continued. "Medical technology, for instance. Jiwoo's movements looked superhuman, but she's actually completely natural. We've just learned how to train the human body to reach its full potential." He flipped to another page. "Or communication technology. That device Jiwoo used, it's not just a radio, it's connected to a network that spans this entire solar system. We know where every ship is, what every person is doing, and what every computer is thinking." A delegate from the Nexus Federation stood up shakily. "That's impossible. Our cybersecurity is perfect. No one can hack our systems." "No one from your level of technology," Tejo agreed. "But Earth developed computers while fighting global wars. We learned to hack and defend against hacking while our entire civilization was at stake. Your peaceful systems are like open books to us." Jiwoo pressed a button on her device. Suddenly, every display screen in the chamber lit up with information. Personal files, military secrets, financial records, private messages, everything the council delegates thought was private was now public. "Please don't worry," Tejo said quickly. "We're not here to steal or blackmail anyone. We're just demonstrating our capabilities. Jiwoo, could you turn that off? I think they understand." The screens went dark, but the message was clear. Earth could see everything the Council was doing. They had been watching and learning long before they ever sent a diplomatic mission. "What do you want?" Chancellor Gorvex asked. His voice was much quieter now. All his anger had been replaced by fear. "The same thing I wanted when I walked in here," Tejo said. "Membership in the Galactic Council, a voice in galactic affairs, the right to trade and interact with other species peacefully." "And if we refuse?" Tejo looked genuinely sad. "Then we'll be very disappointed." Earth really does want to join the galactic community. We think we have a lot to offer. But, General Krex prompted. But if we can't join as friends, Tejo said, we'll have to find other ways to protect our interests. Earth has learned that sometimes peaceful species get taken advantage of. We won't let that happen to us. Jiwoo closed her notebook and looked around the chamber. When her eyes met those of the delegates, they flinched. Each one felt like she was looking directly into their soul and finding them wanting. The truth is, Tejo said, Earth doesn't really need your permission to do what we want. We could take what we need and ignore the rest of you, but we'd prefer to do this the right way. We'd prefer to be partners instead of conquerors. The word conquerors hung in the air like a death sentence. Every alien in the chamber was thinking the same thing. If these humans could do all this, while pretending to be weak diplomats, what could they do if they actually wanted to fight? However, Tejo continued, I understand that this has been a lot of new information. Perhaps you'd like some time to discuss it among yourselves? No one answered. They were all too busy trying to figure out how badly they had misjudged the situation. The emergency session of the Galactic Council's Security Committee met in a heavily shielded room deep inside the station. Every member was present. They had been discussing the human situation for 2 hours, and none of them looked happy. How? Did our intelligence fail this badly? Demanded General Krex. He was pacing back and forth like a caged animal. We had reports on Earth for decades. They were supposed to be primitives. Admiral Voss of the Stellar Navy pulled up holographic displays showing Earth's solar system. Our long-range scans showed simple chemical rockets and basic satellites. Their military technology appeared to be hundreds of years behind ours. Appeared, Chancellor Gorvex repeated bitterly. Now we know those appearances meant nothing. Counselor Zafira was still pale from her encounter with Tejo's mental defenses. Our psychic reconnaissance reported that human minds were simple and unprotected. We detected no advanced neural modifications in the general population. Because we were looking at the wrong people, said Intelligence Director Sean. He was a small gray alien whose job was to know everything about potential threats. Right now, he looked like he wanted to disappear. We focused on their political leaders and military commanders. We never thought to scan their diplomats. Why would we? Admiral Voss asked. Diplomats are supposed to be civilians, non-combatants. The idea of weaponizing diplomatic staff violates every galactic treaty. The humans never signed those treaties, General Krex pointed out. They're not bound by our rules. The truth was slowly becoming clear. Earth had been much more careful than anyone had realized. While the galaxy was watching their obvious military forces, the humans had been developing their real capabilities in secret. Let's review what we actually know, Chancellor Gorvex said. Not what we assumed, but what we've confirmed. Intelligence Director Sean activated a secure data projector. Based on today's revelations, we can confirm several facts. First, human technology is far more advanced than we believed. Their stealth capabilities are beyond anything in our databases. The display showed the 3 human ships that had appeared near the station. Even now, the station's sensors could barely detect them. They moved like ghosts through space. Second, Shan continued, their cybersecurity and hacking abilities are extraordinary. They penetrated our most secure systems without triggering a single alarm. They could have been watching us for years. Third, Admiral Voss added grimly, their personnel enhancement is revolutionary. That assistant didn't just defeat our guards. She made them look like children. And according to her, she's not even their best. Counselor Zephyra shuddered. I tried to read the ambassador's mind with everything I had. It was like trying to break through solid metal. His mental defenses weren't just good, they were perfect. Which brings us to the real question, General Krex said. How many of them are there? How many enhanced humans are already in the galaxy? The question made everyone uncomfortable. If Earth could send invisible ships and undetectable agents, they could have people anywhere, on any world, in any organization, watching and learning. We need to assume the worst, Intelligence Director Sean said. We have to assume they've been studying us much longer than we realized. Chancellor Gorvex brought up another display. This one showed Earth's history as recorded by galactic observers. Look at this timeline. 40 years ago, Earth was still fighting wars with explosive weapons. 20 years ago, they achieved basic space flight. 10 years ago, they established their first orbital stations. It's too fast, Admiral Voss realized. No species develops technology that quickly through normal means. Unless they're not developing it, Counselor Zephyra said slowly. Unless they're adapting it, taking what they learn from other sources and making it better. The implications were terrifying. If humans were that good at reverse engineering technology, then every piece of equipment they had ever seen could have been copied and improved. How long have they been watching us? General Krex asked. How much do they really know? Enough, said a new voice from the chamber's entrance. Everyone turned to see Ambassador Teho walking in calmly. Behind him came Ji-Woo, still carrying her notebook. Both humans looked completely relaxed. How did you get in here? Admiral Voss demanded. This room is sealed. The security locks are impossible to bypass. Nothing is impossible, Ji-Woo said pleasantly. You just need the right tools and enough patience. She held up a small device that looked like a simple pen, but when she pressed a button, holographic schematics of the station's security system appeared in the air. We've been studying your technology for quite some time, Teho explained. Your security is very good against conventional threats. But humans have never been conventional. Chancellor Gorvex stood up angrily. This is an illegal intrusion. You have no right to be here. Actually, we do, Teho said. He pulled out an official document. According to Galactic Council rules, any species under consideration for membership has the right to observe security discussions that concern them. We're just exercising that right. You weren't invited. You didn't post guards, Ji-Woo pointed. Out. If this meeting was truly secret, you should have taken better precautions. Intelligence Director Sean was staring at his instruments in disbelief. How long have you been listening? Since the beginning, Teho admitted. We wanted to hear what you really thought about us. It's been very educational. He walked to the center of the room and looked around at all the alien faces. They were afraid now. Good. Fear would make them listen. You want to know how long we've been watching you? Teho asked. The answer is 57 years, ever since you destroyed the Kepler colony. Several aliens went pale. The Kepler colony had been a peaceful settlement that had refused to join the Galactic Council. The official record said they had been destroyed by a natural disaster. That wasn't a natural disaster, Teho continued. It was a demonstration. You wanted to show other species what happened to those who didn't cooperate. How could you possibly know that? Admiral Voss whispered. Because we were already out there, Ji-Woo said. Not officially. Earth's government didn't even know about it. But some of our people had learned to build ships that could travel between stars. They were exploring, learning, watching. When they saw what you did to Kepler, Tejo said, they came home and told us what we were really dealing with. That's when Earth's real space program began. Not the one you could see, but the one that mattered. He activated his own holographic display. It showed a timeline of Earth's secret activities over the past 50 years. Hidden research stations, invisible, survey ships, agents planted throughout the galaxy. We've been preparing for this meeting for 5 decades, Tejo said. We studied every species in the Council. We learned your languages, your cultures, your strengths and weaknesses. We know how you think and how you fight. Impossible, General, Krex said. We would have detected such extensive activities. Would you? Jiwoo asked. You couldn't detect 3 ships sitting next to your station for 3 days. You couldn't detect us breaking into your most secure facility. What makes you think you would have detected anything else? The truth was finally sinking in. Earth hadn't just been developing advanced technology. They had been conducting the largest intelligence operation in galactic history. They knew everything about everyone. What do you want? Chancellor Gorvex asked. His voice was defeated. The same thing we've always wanted, Tejo said. A place in the galactic community. The right to exist without being threatened or destroyed. And if we refuse? Tejo looked sad. Then you'll discover why Earth survived long enough to reach the stars. You'll learn what happens when a species that's been fighting for survival for thousands of years decides that it's tired of being afraid. Jiwoo checked her watch. Ambassador, we should probably return to the main chamber. The other delegates will be wondering where we went. Of course, Tejo said. Gentlemen, ladies, thank you for this enlightening discussion. We'll see you back in the main chamber when you're ready to vote. The 2 humans walked out as calmly as they had entered. Behind them, they left a room full of aliens who finally understood the true situation. Earth hadn't come here as supplicants, begging for membership. They had come as equals, demanding recognition, and they had the power to enforce their demands. The galaxy's biggest predators had just met something even more dangerous than themselves, something that had been watching them for 50 years and learning all their secrets, something that was very, very good at pretending to be harmless. When Tejo and Jiwoo returned to the main council chamber, they found chaos waiting for them. Delegates were shouting at each other in dozens of languages. Some were demanding immediate military action against Earth. Others were calling for emergency evacuations of their home worlds. Ambassador Tejo walked calmly to his seat and sat down. Jiwoo took her place beside him and opened her notebook. Both humans acted as if nothing unusual was happening. The shouting gradually died down as the aliens noticed the humans had returned. All eyes turned to Tejo, waiting to see what he would do next. I apologize for the delay, Tejo said politely. I hope you've had time to consider Earth's membership application. Chancellor Gorvex stood up slowly. His 4 arms were shaking, but not with anger anymore, with fear. Before we continue, we need some answers. How long has Earth been spying on us? Spying is such an ugly word, Tejo replied. We prefer to call it gathering information for diplomatic purposes. And the answer is about 50 years. 50 years, General Krex repeated. You've been watching us for 50 years and we never knew. You never looked, Jiwoo said without looking up from her notes. You assumed that because our technology appeared primitive, we couldn't possibly be a threat. So you ignored us. Counselor Zafira leaned forward. What else have you been hiding? From us? Tejo considered the question carefully. Well, since you ask, Perhaps it's time to be completely honest about Earth's capabilities. He stood up and walked to the main display screen. With a few touches, he brought up a star map showing the local sector of the galaxy. This shows all the inhabited systems within 100 light-years of Earth, he said. As you can see, there are 43 different species in this region. The aliens nodded. This matched their own records. What your records don't show, Tejo continued, is that Earth has had contact with 38 of those species for the past 20 years. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. How was this possible? The Galactic Council controlled all official first contact procedures. Unofficial contact, Tejo clarified. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, mutual defense pacts, all done, quietly, without attracting attention from the Council. Admiral Voss stood up angrily. That's illegal. All new species must go through proper Council procedures before making contact with other civilizations. According to whose law? Tejo asked. Earth never agreed to those procedures. Neither did most of the species we've been talking to. He touched the display again. New information appeared, showing trade routes and communication networks that the Council had never detected. It turns out, Tejo said, that there are quite a few species who are unhappy with Council rule. They're tired of having their resources taken and their people treated like servants. They were very interested in talking to someone who might offer an alternative. Intelligence Director Sean was frantically checking his instruments. This is impossible. We monitor all interstellar communications. We would have detected this level of activity. You monitor the communications you know about, Jiwoo said. But what if someone developed new ways to communicate? Ways that your sensors can't detect? She pulled out her communication device again. This time, when she activated it, the holographic display showed a complex network spanning dozens of star systems. Earth has been building a quantum communication network for 30 years, she explained. Instantaneous contact across any distance, completely undetectable by conventional sensors. Every one of our partner species has access to it. The implications were staggering. Earth hadn't just been watching the galaxy. They had been building their own network within it. A shadow civilization that operated outside Council control. How many ships do you have? General Krex demanded. In total? Tejo looked thoughtful. Hard to say exactly. Not all of them are officially Earth ships. Some belong to our partner species. Some are joint ventures. But if we needed to, we could probably field about 2,000 vessels. 2,000? Admiral Voss's voice was barely a whisper. The entire Council fleet is only 1,500 ships. Yes, we noticed that, Tejo said. We also noticed that most of your ships are designed for attacking defenseless worlds, not for fighting an equal opponent. Our ships are built for war. He brought up technical specifications on the display. The human ships didn't look impressive. They were smaller and simpler than Council vessels. But their capabilities were terrifying. Each ship carries weapons, designed to penetrate Council shields, Tejo explained. Stealth systems that make them invisible to your sensors, and crews trained specifically to fight your tactics. Chancellor Gorvex sank into his chair. You've been preparing for war with us for 50 years. Preparing for survival, Tejo corrected. We learned early that the galaxy was not a safe place for peaceful species, so we made sure we wouldn't be peaceful when we needed to fight. The communication device in Jiwoo's hand chimed softly. She listened to a message, then whispered something to Tejo. Tejo said. I've just received word that our partner species are becoming concerned about this meeting. Several of them are asking if they should begin moving their fleets to defensive positions. What partner species? Counselor Zafira asked desperately. Tejo smiled. Well, there's the Altair Federation. You destroyed their original homeworld 200 years ago, but the survivors have been rebuilding in secret. They're quite eager for revenge. Several aliens went pale. The Altair Federation was supposed to be extinct. Then there's the free colonies of Kepler, Tejo continued. Yes, that's right. Some of them survived your natural disaster as well. They've been very patient, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. There's also the Independent Worlds Alliance, Jiwoo added. 17 species who refuse to join the Council and have been hiding in uncharted systems. They're tired of running. The list went on and on. Species that were supposed to be dead or defeated. Worlds that were supposed to be empty. All of them had somehow survived and found each other through Earth's network. You see, Tejo said, Earth isn't just one species asking for membership. We're representing a coalition of 40 species who are tired of Council rule. We're offering you a choice. What choice? General Krex asked. Tejo's expression became very serious. You can accept Earth's membership and begin negotiations for a new galactic government that represents everyone fairly. Or you can continue, as you have been, and deal with the consequences. Are you threatening us? Chancellor Gorvex demanded. Not at all, Tejo replied. I'm offering you a peaceful solution to a problem you don't even know you have yet. The communication device chimed again. Jiwoo listened, then stood up. Ambassador, she said formally, I'm receiving reports that Council fleets are moving toward several systems in our network. It appears someone has decided to test our resolve. Tejo sighed sadly. How disappointing. And here I thought we could settle this diplomatically. He walked back to the display and brought up a real-time tactical map. It showed Council ships approaching 3 different star systems. But it also showed something else, human ships moving to intercept them. Council Fleet 7 is approaching the Vega system, Jiwoo reported. Earth Ship Group Alpha is moving. To intercept. Estimated contact in 4 hours. Council Fleet 12 is heading for the Ross system, she continued. The Independent Worlds Alliance has dispatched their defense force. Contact in 6 hours. And Council Fleet 3 is moving. Toward the Centauri colonies, she finished. The Altair Federation fleet is already in position to defend them. Admiral Voss was staring at the display in horror. How are you tracking our fleet movements in real time? That information is classified at the highest levels. We told you, Tejo said. We've been preparing for this for 50 years. Did you really think we would miss something as important as fleet positions? The chamber was completely silent now. Every alien was realizing that they had walked into a trap. While they had been laughing at the primitive humans, Earth had been building the largest alliance in galactic history. What do you want? Chancellor Gorvex asked again. But this time, his voice was that of someone who knew he had already lost. The same thing we've always wanted, Tejo said. Peace, freedom, the right to exist without fear. He turned to face the entire chamber. But now we're in a position to take those things if they're not given freely. The question is, do you want to be part of the new galaxy we're building, or do you want to be swept aside by it? The choice was clear. The old galactic order was already crumbling. The only question was whether it would fall peacefully or violently, and that choice belonged to the very aliens who had spent the day laughing at human weakness. The silence in the chamber stretched for long minutes. Every delegate was staring at the tactical display, watching their fleets move toward what they now realized might be their destruction. The numbers were clear. Earth's alliance had more. Ships, better technology, and 50 years of preparation. Chancellor Gorvex was the first to break. His 4 massive hands were shaking as he reached for his communication device. Fleet Command, he said quietly. This is Chancellor Gorvex. All Vorthak vessels are to halt their advance immediately and return to defensive positions. Sir, came the confused response. Our orders were to... I'm changing the orders, Gorvex said firmly. Return to base, now. One by one, other delegates began making similar calls. Admiral Voss ordered the Stellar Navy to stand down. General Krex recalled his battle groups. Even the smaller species who had been eager for a fight suddenly decided that discretion was the better part of valor. Ambassador Teho watched this with satisfaction. A wise decision. Jiwoo, please inform our allies that the immediate crisis has passed. Jiwoo spoke quietly into her device. On the tactical display, the human and allied fleets began moving back to their original positions. But they didn't disappear. They remained visible, a constant reminder of the new balance of power. Now then, Teho said, I believe we have some things to discuss. He walked to the center of the chamber and activated a new holographic display. This one showed a detailed proposal for galactic government reform. Earth has spent considerable time studying the problems with the current system, he began. The Galactic Council claims to represent all species equally, but in practice, it serves only the strongest members. The display showed statistics that made several delegates uncomfortable. Resource extraction rates, population displacement numbers, species that had gone extinct under Council rule. Under the current system, Teho continued, weak species are exploited until they're used up, then discarded. Strong species fight each other for dominance while everyone else suffers. It's not sustainable. Councillor Zafira tried to object. The Council has brought peace and stability to the galaxy for 1,000 years. Has it? Jiwoo asked. She brought up new statistics. In the last 100 years alone, the Council has overseen 47 wars, 12 genocides, and the destruction of 31 inhabited worlds. That doesn't sound like peace to me. The numbers were accurate, and everyone knew it. The Council's version of peace meant that the strong did whatever they wanted to the weak. What are you proposing? Intelligence Director Shan asked nervously. Teho smiled. Simple. Real representation for all species. Real protection for weak civilizations. Real consequences for those who abuse their power. The holographic display changed to show a new governmental structure. It was more complex than the current system, with multiple layers of oversight and protection for minority species. Every species gets one vote, regardless of size or military power, Teho explained. Decisions that affect a specific region require approval from species in that region. Military action requires unanimous consent from a Security Council with rotating membership. Impossible, General Krex said. You can't run a galaxy by committee. Strong leadership is necessary. Strong leadership, yes, Teho agreed, but not tyranny, and certainly not the kind of leadership that rules through fear and violence. Jiwoo stood up and walked to another display panel. We've also prepared proposals for economic reform. Currently, the Council controls all trade routes and resource allocation. This gives them power to starve any species that disobeys. She brought up economic data showing how resources flowed from weak species to strong ones. The pattern was clear. The Council operated like a protection racket, taking tribute from those too weak to resist. Under our proposal, Jiwoo continued, trade would be free and open. Species could make their own agreements without Council interference. Predatory economic practices would be prohibited. And who would enforce these rules? Admiral Voss asked. What's to stop the strong from simply ignoring the weak as they always have? Taeho's smile became colder. Us. The simple word carried enormous weight. Earth and their allies had just demonstrated that they could match the Council's military power. The threat was clear: follow the new rules or face the consequences. This is extortion, Chancellor Gorvex protested. No, Taeho said. Extortion is what the Council has been doing for centuries. This is justice. Alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red. A new voice came over the communication system. All delegates to emergency stations. Unknown vessels are docking with the station. All delegates to emergency stations immediately. Several aliens jumped to their feet in panic, but Taeho remained calm. That would be the rest of my team, he said casually. I told you we brought additional staff. How many people did you bring? General Krex demanded. Enough, Jiwoo said. She was checking her communication device again. Security teams have secured all critical areas of the station. Technical teams are accessing the main computer systems. Medical teams are standing by in case anyone needs assistance. The implications sank in slowly. While the delegates had been arguing in the chamber, human teams had been taking control of the entire station. Not violently. There had been no fighting, no shooting. They had simply walked in and taken over. This is an act of war, Admiral Voss shouted. No, Taeho corrected. This is an act of security. We couldn't allow the possibility of sabotage or violence while we were having such an important discussion. You've seized a neutral station. We've protected a diplomatic meeting, Jiwoo said. All critical systems are functioning normally. No one has been harmed. But now we can be sure that our negotiations won't be interrupted by unfortunate accidents. The chamber doors opened and more humans entered. They wore simple uniforms and carried what looked like basic equipment. But after what the delegates had already seen, no one was fooled by appearances anymore. One of the newcomers, a woman wearing captain's insignia, approached Taeho and saluted. Station secure, Ambassador. All systems under our control. No resistance. Encountered. Thank you, Captain Nam, Taeho said. Any problems? None, sir. The station's security forces have been very cooperative once we explained the situation. Chancellor Gorvex stared at the captain. How many soldiers did you bring? Soldiers? Captain Nam looked puzzled. We didn't bring any soldiers, sir. These are all diplomatic support staff. Technicians, medics, security specialists. The distinction was meaningless, and everyone knew it. Earth's diplomatic support staff had just captured the most heavily defended station in the galaxy without firing a shot. Taeho walked back to his seat and sat down. Now, where were we? Oh, yes, we were discussing governmental reform. Yugi can't seriously expect us to negotiate under these conditions, Counselor Zafira protested. Why not? Taeho asked. You're all still free to leave whenever you want. You're free to say no to our proposals. You're free to declare war on Earth if that's what you choose. He paused and looked around the chamber. Of course, if you choose war, you'll be fighting not just Earth, but 40 species with 2,000 ships and 50 years of preparation. But that's your choice to make. The threat was delivered so politely that it was even more terrifying. The humans weren't demanding surrender. They were offering partnership. But the alternative to partnership was clear. Intelligence Director Shan raised his hand nervously. What guarantees do we have? How do we know you won't just replace the current system with human tyranny? An excellent question, Taeho said. Jiwoo, would you show them Document 17? Jiwoo brought up a new display. This one showed a detailed constitution for the new galactic government. It included checks and balances, term limits, and protection for minority rights. Earth will have one vote, the same as every other species, Tejo explained. We can't pass laws without support from other civilizations. We can't declare war without approval from the Security Council. We're bound by the same rules as everyone. Else, but you have the biggest fleet, General Krex pointed out. For now, Tejo agreed. But under the new system, military forces will be integrated. No single species will control enough ships to threaten the others. And if we refuse? Chancellor Gorvex asked quietly. Tejo looked genuinely sad. Then you'll discover that the galaxy has already changed whether you accept it or not. Our alliance exists with or without council approval. The old system is already dead. The only question is whether you want to help build something better, or be left behind by it. The choice was clear, and it wasn't really a choice at all. The old galactic order had ended the moment Earth revealed its true capabilities. The only question now was whether the transition would be peaceful or violent. And that decision rested with the very aliens who had spent the morning calling humans primitive. 6 months later, Ambassador Kim Tae-ho stood in the same council chamber where everything had changed, but the chamber itself looked very different now. The old hierarchical seating arrangement was gone, replaced by circular tables where delegates from all species sat as equals. Where once only the strongest species had voices, now even the smallest civilizations had representatives. The Kepler survivors sat next to their former oppressors. The Altair Federation delegates worked alongside council members who had once tried to destroy them. Tejo himself looked different too. He still wore simple clothes and carried his old briefcase, but now he wore the Medallion of the Galactic, Chancellor. The position rotated every 2 years among all member species. Earth had been chosen first, not because they were the strongest, but because they had made the new system possible. Ji Woo sat nearby, still taking notes and organizing files, but now everyone knew what she really was. Her official title was Special Assistant for Security Affairs, which was a polite way of saying she was the most dangerous person in the galaxy. Other delegates treated her with respectful caution. The next item on our agenda, Tejo announced, is the petition for membership from the Andorian Republic. A delegation of nervous-looking aliens approached the central speaking area. They were small, blue-skinned beings from a world on the galaxy's outer rim. Under the old system, they would have been ignored or enslaved. Under the new system, their application was being considered seriously. "We know we don't have much to offer," their leader said hesitantly. "Our technology is simple, our military is small, but we want to be part of the galactic community." "Every species has something valuable to contribute," Tejo said kindly. "What can you tell us about your world and your people?" The Androrians began describing their culture and capabilities. They were peaceful traders and skilled artists. Their world was beautiful but resource-poor. In the old days, they would have been perfect targets for exploitation. Chancellor Gorvex, who now served as the Vorthak representative, raised one of his massive hands. 6 months ago, he would have been calling for the Androrians to be made into slaves. Now he asked, "What kind of protection would you need from more aggressive neighbors?" "There are pirate fleets in our region," the Andorian leader admitted. "We've lost several trade ships in recent months. I can offer Vorthak patrol ships to help secure your trade routes," Gorvex said. "My people are always looking for honorable combat against real enemies instead of defenseless civilians." The offer would have been unthinkable under the old system. But the Vorthak Empire had discovered that fighting pirates and raiders was much more satisfying than bullying weak species. They had found a new purpose as protectors instead of predators. The Nexus Federation can provide communication technology, offered another delegate. Our quantum networks would help coordinate anti-piracy efforts. And the Ethereal Collective can train your people in mental defenses, added Counselor Zephyra. Pirates often use crude telepathic attacks to intimidate their victims. Jiwoo looked up from her notes. Earth can provide tactical training and defensive weapons. Nothing aggressive, just enough to help you protect yourselves. The Andorians looked amazed. Instead of being exploited, they were being offered help from species that had once been enemies. The new system was actually working. All in favor of accepting the Andorian Republic as a full member, Taeho asked. Every hand in the chamber went up. Under the old system, membership votes had been exercises in power politics. Under the new system, they were genuine expressions of galactic solidarity. After the Andorians left to celebrate their acceptance, Taeho moved to the next agenda item. Admiral Voss, what's the status of the Orion cleanup operation? Admiral Voss stood up. His stellar navy had been transformed from a force of conquest into a humanitarian organization. We've completed the evacuation of the slave labor camps on Orion 7. All 20,000 beings have been relocated to safe worlds where they can rebuild their lives. Any resistance from the former overseers? Asked General Krex. Some, Voss admitted, but nothing our teams couldn't handle. Most of the overseers surrendered once they realized we weren't going to execute them. That was another change. Under the old system, defeated enemies were usually killed or enslaved. Under the new system, they were given chances to reform and contribute positively to society. What about the Orion mining operations? Asked a delegate from the free colonies. We're transitioning them to automated systems, Voss reported. The profits will be shared among all the species whose people were forced to work there. It should provide enough income for them to rebuild their worlds. Jiwoo made a note. Earth engineering teams report that full automation should be complete within 6 months. After that, Orion 7 can be returned to its original inhabitants. The Kepler representative smiled. My people are looking forward to going home. We never thought we'd see our world again. Taeho nodded. Justice takes time, but it's worth waiting for. The meeting continued for several more hours, covering trade disputes, scientific cooperation, and cultural exchange programs. Every issue was handled with the same careful attention to fairness that had become the hallmark of the new government. When the session finally ended, most delegates filed out discussing their next projects, but a few familiar faces remained behind. Chancellor. Gorvex, Admiral Voss, General Krex, and Counselor Zephyra approached Taeho's table. Ambassador, Gorvex said formally, then caught himself. Sorry, Chancellor Taeho, old habits. Ambassador is fine, Taeho said with a smile. I'm still Earth's representative after all. We wanted to thank you, Admiral Voss said quietly. 6 months ago, we thought you were going to destroy everything we had built. Instead, you gave us something better. You gave yourselves something better, Taeho corrected. We just provided the opportunity. General Krex looked uncomfortable. I still don't understand how you did it. How did you know we would choose cooperation over war? Jiwoo looked up from packing her files. Because we studied you for 50 years. We knew that underneath all the aggression and fear, most of your species were fundamentally decent. You just needed a chance to prove it. And if we had chosen war? Zephyra asked. Then we would have fought, Taeho said simply. And we would have won. but we're much happier with this outcome." The former council leaders exchanged glances. They had all seen the classified reports on Earth's military capabilities. Even now, 6 months later, those reports were terrifying. Humanity hadn't just been preparing for war, they had been preparing to win it decisively. "What happens now?" Gorvex asked. "Earth could rule the galaxy if it wanted to. Why settle for being just another member species?" Tejo stood up and walked to the large window that showed the stars beyond the station. "Because ruling through fear and force is exhausting. Because diversity makes us all stronger. Because the galaxy is big enough for everyone to thrive." He turned back to face them. "Earth learned long ago that the best way to be safe is to make sure everyone else is safe too. A galaxy where only the strong survive is a galaxy that's always at war." Jiwoo finished packing and joined them at the window. "Besides, we're too busy exploring to worry about ruling. There are millions of star systems out there that no one has ever seen. New species to meet, new worlds to discover, new problems to solve." "Speaking of new problems," Tejo said, "we've been detecting some unusual signals from outside the galaxy. Something big is moving in the void between galaxies. We might need everyone working together to figure out what it is." The implication was clear. The galaxy was safer and more united than it had ever been, but new challenges were always emerging. Challenges that would require the combined efforts of all species to overcome. A soft chime indicated that new visitors were arriving at the station. Through the window, they could see a small, battered ship approaching the docking bay. It flew no recognizable flags and sent no identification signals. "Refugees?" Admiral Voss wondered. "Possibly," Jiwoo said, checking her scanner. "The ship's technology is unfamiliar. Could be another lost species looking for help. In the old days, unknown ships were usually destroyed on sight. In the new galaxy, they were welcomed and protected until their intentions could be determined." "I should go meet them," Tejo said. "Jiwoo, would you join me?" Of course. Ambassador As they walked toward the docking bay, the former council leaders watched them go. A mild-mannered diplomat and his deadly assistant heading off to help strangers who might be friends or enemies. 6 months ago, such behavior would have been seen as foolish weakness. Now it was seen as strength. The strength that came from knowing you were powerful enough to be generous. The strength that came from building a galaxy where everyone had a place. The old Galactic Council had ruled through fear and maintained order through violence. It had lasted 1,000 years by crushing anyone who threatened it. The new Galactic Alliance was only 6 months old, but it was already stronger than the old Council had ever been. Not because of superior weapons or larger fleets, but because it was built on cooperation instead of domination. As Tejo and Jiwoo reached the docking bay, the unknown ship settled onto the landing platform with a soft thud. The airlock cycled open, and a group of strange aliens emerged. They looked around, nervously,